Hey guys, it's Scott Lips. Welcome to the show today. Super excited today to have on one of my favorite rock bands of the moment, the Struts. Their music has been described as unabashedly over-the-top, retro-fetished classic rock. They're glamorous and dangerous. Wow, that's a lot of description. But such a great band, bringing back rock and roll. Super happy to have them here. Super excited. I've been friends with these guys for many years. I'd love to see them exploding at the moment. I think them and Greta Van Fleet and some other bands are really holding the flag for rock and roll at the moment. They're going to be walking in the studio in just a moment. I kind of look at their music as a mixture of Queen, the Stones, the Killers, Oasis. So yeah, give it up in just a moment for the Struts.
Check, check.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey guys, so we're here. We're with the Struts. I just gave you guys a warm welcome and an amazing introduction a little while ago, which you didn't hear. But the band is always described as glamorous, dangerous. You guys have the full package. Truth be told, we've been friends for quite a while, but you have the songs, you have the looks, you've got everything, the stage presence. I was lucky enough to see you guys at the Roxy probably, 6 months ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, was it? Yeah.
June.
And thank you for that introduction.
What an
You're very
incredible
kind.
show, by the way. You're bringing back rock in a major way. And I want to introduce all you guys. So we have Luke, Adam, Jed, Gethin, also known as the Struts. How you guys doing today, by the way?
Great,
Wow.
great. Really great to be here. It's actually nice to be back in LA. It's been...
For 6 hours, right?
Yeah. Always good. Always enjoy the sunshine. And it's great to be here.
And you're off to Australia, right?
We are.
Awesome. That's your first, is that co-headlining with Greta Van Fleet, I believe?
We're opening up for them for just over a week, but it's going to be great. We've never played Australia ever before, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Aussies take to us. Yeah.
Well, you've been there, though, right?
I have. Gef's got family out there,
I just
so
got back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I think I heard somewhere that New Zealand was one of your favorite places to go on holiday, right? One of you guys.
That was mine, actually.
That was your, okay.
Yeah.
And you were, actually, I saw you were with the elephants somewhere, like in Thailand recently.
Yeah, I
which
just
is
got
cool.
back from Thailand. That's what Christmas is fun for. Sometimes when you're in a band, you don't get to go home then, but this year we were lucky enough to go on some little breaks. So,
And normally I look at my Instagram feed and I see you with like guitars and rock and roll and audiences. This one was you like petting an elephant or something the
Oh,
other
mate,
day.
best day of my life.
So listen, I'm so happy you guys are here. I want to take it back to the beginning because part of what we do here a lot of times is talk about your journey. For me, your music is like all things rolled into one. Obviously, everybody always talks about the heavy Queen reference, but you know, the Stones, the Killers, who I know you love, Oasis, everything rolled into one. And obviously you have your own sound, which is incredible. The songs are amazing. You're originally from Derby, England, right? And I want to talk about the history of how you guys started. You know, really take me back to the beginning from when you were a child, and I know your father was into gospel music, and they were somewhat supportive from what I understand, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, so the band was born in Derby, but we're actually from different places in the UK. Adam's the only true Darbarian in the band.
Darbarian, that's a great word.
Yeah.
It's actually is a word.
Is it a word?
They do call them Darbarian.
Oh, okay.
Really?
No, wow.
That's
Yeah,
great.
they do.
That was a shot in the dark.
It's
and
like
I-
barbarian, but Darbarian.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
So yeah, I guess since from a very young age, I always enjoyed like performing. Like you said, you know, my dad still is like a gospel kind of singer-songwriter, and he kind of works that into his sermons by using music.
So you grew up in a religious household.
Yes,
But
yes.
your parents were into Queen. I think that was your mother's first record.
It was my mum, and that was the weird thing. She kind of had this musical past, which really wasn't ever talked about until I started getting into Queen. And she was like, Bohemian Rhapsody was the first single I ever bought.
Amazing.
As a child. So we kind of connected on that. And then, yeah, I just sort of like developed this very strong love and connection with everything in that era. And my school band kind of broke up, and Adams was on the verge of kind of breaking up at that time when we were introduced by our manager at the time.
So you had a manager when you were like 16 or something?
No, I was actually 20.
Okay.
And Adam was, how old were you when we first met?
17.
17.
I will tell you that I actually watched this amazing video of you guys today where you were talking about the naughtiest things you ever did in school. And we
Yes.
can probably get into that a little bit.
Oh,
but
God,
your
yeah.
stories
I
from
remember
school
that.
are pretty incredible. So I do want to reference the school stories in a little bit. But so you met in school. You started playing music at like 20 years old, right?
Well, we we were both in different schools,
Okay.
in different parts of the country, and I had left school, was thinking about going to university, went to university for about a month, dropped out, and then that's when I got a message from the manager at the time, who said, "Would you be up for meeting this guy called Adam?"
And you actually wanted to be a dancer, which is amazing because when you see you guys perform, you could tell like the theatrics and it all comes into play. None of you other guys wanted to be dancers, right?
I can dance very well, but I didn't want to be that. It's just a gift that I'm burdened with, you know.
But you did, isn't that true though? Because I know Michael Jackson was a big inspiration.
Yeah, I was super into that, and it was the first thing I truly fell in love with was movement and I guess choreography to an extent. I mean, whether those dreams would have really come into fruition is something I'll never really know.
Right, of course.
But
You definitely there was a little Mick Jagger phase, I would assume.
see, that's
too,
the
right?
weird thing. Like when I first started singing in a band when I was like 16, 17, everyone was always sort of saying, "Oh, it's very Mick Jagger." And I was like, I really wasn't a massive fan of like Mick Jagger and the Stones at that specific point when I was 16. But it just turns out we both have the same kind of influences. You know, we're both white guys trying to dance like, you know, our favorite black musicians,
Right.
like James Brown, Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 and, you know, everything else that kind of comes with that. And I think that's the Jagger mannerisms, you know.
And Adam, were you into the same kind of music growing up? I mean, was it also for you Queen and the Stones, or did you have other references?
Yeah, no, not for me really. It was like my first band I loved was Green Day.
Oh wow, okay.
And then I kind of got into Oasis when I was about 16 and the Beatles. And then it kind of, I mean, if I'd met Luke a year earlier, I probably wouldn't have got on with him because I wasn't ready for that kind of music. But then I started just getting into like bands like Slade and
Slade never really broke in America. They were more a British thing.
yeah, and I mean they were huge because when I told my mum like I was into these bands, she was like, "Oh, you should check this band like Mott the Hoople and stuff like that."
Great band.
And then when I met Luke, it was kind of he was like, "Oh, you should listen to this." And when I didn't like the Stones either, and then we started doing like cover gigs and stuff like that.
Because you
Me
guys
and
actually
Luke.
had a different rhythm section initially, right?
We did.
And those guys are pissed now because you guys have done. You guys got the two new guys in the band, but it's sort of like Pete Best is like, "Fuck, I messed up." The Beatles, you know.
I mean,
So-
it kind of like ended very bittersweetly.
Right, it always does, right?
You know, yeah, it always does.
Yeah.
It's very tough, but I think, you know, we landed on our feet, and it was looking back like a change that needed to happen. And yes, it was difficult at the time, but you know, I wouldn't change it now for anything.
So in fact, you have 2 albums out. Your new record just came out in October, and a bunch of EPs and singles and stuff like that. But the band's actually been together about 10 years. I don't think a lot of people know.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, we've been slogging away for a very long time. And I think in a lot of ways, we kind of view ourselves really like beginning since coming to the States.
Yeah.
You know, even though there was like 5 years before that, things really started to get focused and, dare say, more professional and more ambitious when we came to the States.
Stepping it up a notch. But so you
Exactly.
guys met. You started playing music. It was covers first. And what were you covering? Mott the Hoople, and was it Queen? Because Queen is hard to cover. So.
No, it was like AC/DC. What else? The Stone. Lots of Stone songs.
James Brown,
James Brown. Led Zeppelin.
Bowie.
Bowie. Yeah.
I never would
Oasis.
try and play Led Zeppelin because as a drummer, you know, you just can't
Yeah.
play it as good, right?
No,
It's
I don't think the
impossible,
drummers at the time were even playing it that good.
Yeah, like,
I don't even-
This is before we even had a band. It was just me, Luke, and my cousin, and,
Okay.
and like some friends from my village.
So then you got the 2 other guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened after that?
Well, and then me and Adam started to, you know, write songs, and we recorded like a very small EP with a couple of other additional players, which we then took to record labels. We eventually got signed by like a small indie label, and then we got the Previous Rhythm section, and then literally quite soon after that, within the year, the label went bust.
Wow. What
And
label was it?
It was Future Records.
Okay.
It was Universal as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah.
And back then, the temperature for rock and roll was different too, right? You were coming out of a time period with Oasis and all these bands, so hip hop wasn't as prominent as it is now, where it's like
It was.
everything.
It was at the time. It was kind of like in the UK anyway. It was very, like poppy, like boy bandy.
It was the Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, like, you know, Red One Productions and stuff like that. That was what was big when we were signed back then. And
Boy bands with
and boy
guitars.
bands, yeah, and you know, One Direction, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't a lot of rock and roll then, but like kind of like similar now. But instead of the huge hip hop rap thing, it was more just
boy
pop,
bands.
yeah, and pop music.
Nobody was pushing you guys to be a boy band.
No.
No, I mean they definitely had stuff to say about, you know, like my hair and what I was wearing.
Fashion-wise, I think it was, yeah.
Right. So, and initially you guys sort of, because you were referencing, obviously there's all these bands that you like growing up, and they all had amazing images, right? Aerosmith and Queen and the Stones and Zeppelin and everyone, right? So the 70s glam thing was a big inspiration, I would imagine, on you. There's no way it couldn't have been. And so that early on, your image started to form when you guys got together, because I actually never saw pictures of you from like 10 years ago. Maybe there was a throwback
I
Thursday.
saw one today and we looked terrible.
Did you?
I think Luke definitely took the lead.
Can we see one at some point? Because I need that.
Yeah, we'll send you some.
Was it heavy glam? What was it?
It was. I mean,
The old lineup was like mad glam. Like,
was it?
Fringes and like just a big booth on.
We went through a very difficult time period where, you know, I did have a very strong, clear vision of what I wanted it to be visually, and whether it was the record label that we were with at the time or the management that we were with at the time, it was like this constant back and forth of, no, you need to be looking like this, and no, you need to be looking like that.
What were they trying to push you towards?
You know, just a lot more digestible, and dare say normal.
Right.
You know, I mean, I remember when Jed and Gethin joined the band, we were under a tremendous amount of pressure through sort of inside dealings that were going on why we were on a certain label, you know, and I was pressured that I had to honor that. And, you know, I ended up cutting my hair, dyeing it black. I mean, that's the reason why it's black now. You know, I just kept
Never
doing
look back,
it.
right?
So yes, I mean, the image has always been very important, but it's also something that we've had to fight for quite a while. And since coming to the States, since changing our management, finally, for the first time in sort of quite a while, we've been able to sort of really express ourselves and remain true to the vision.
And was the Struts the first name that you guys settled on? Because I heard that you guys were at a rehearsal, you were strutting around, and somebody was like, hey, that's the name of the band, right?
We were toying with other ideas, but I mean...
What were some of the names?
We had Baby Strange.
Not a bad name.
There was actually a band that called...
There is a band,
yeah,
right?
called Baby Strange.
Yeah, that was after. God, what else? Like Dynamo Hum.
What is
was
that?
it? I don't know. It was just the name that was floating around.
Was that one about a bridge?
A bridge.
The Devon
Bridge
Society.
That sounds like a crime novel or something.
How that
I know.
is a stick, we'll never know.
Sounds like a Ray Davies album.
So you guys, did you all live together at some point?
Yes, we did.
Cool.
So we lived in a house in Derby.
What was that like? Was that like
Fun.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll? the whole
You
way?
know what? I
No
mean,
sex.
a lot of drugs and rock and roll.
No sex.
I mean, there was a fair amount of sex, to be fair. It was...
Have you seen Train Spotting?
I have, yeah. I didn't understand a word of it, to be honest, because the
Hey, it's all
accent's
like
like a
that.
Cockney
Pal.
accent. Is it me, or is it if you're not from there, it's hard to
hard to get
understand.
your head
Scottish, really
Yeah.
thick Scottish
I
accent.
didn't know what was going on in that movie, but
It was very debaucherous.
yeah, it was.
Those years that we were living together.
So and take us through the, you know, because again, people think maybe that if they're just tuning in now and this is your second record, that you guys are sort of like an overnight sensation, but it's been 10 years and it's been constant touring. And by the way, if we haven't mentioned it so far, I mean, the Foo Fighters you've opened up for, Guns N' Roses, the Rolling Stones, the Who, is, I mean, not alone Led Zeppelin you haven't opened up for, but almost everyone that's major in rock I feel you guys have played with, so which is pretty incredible. And I know we're going to get to some of those stories, but from that to do, you know, you're opening up for the Stones, and you're like, how did I get here, right? So you get the record deal, you start playing, and before you know it, you have to make some changes in the band, and the band, the labels are pushing you to certain things. So where does it go from there?
So, we start basically really hitting the road and basically going from strength to strength. We put out our debut in the United Kingdom, which, received no real kind of attention whatsoever due to things that were beyond our control. However, we just pressed on. We did like some UK tours. All of a sudden, we found a fantastic radio station in Paris called WeFM started playing a couple of our songs. And we were doing like 500 capacity clubs in the UK. And then we suddenly went to France and we were doing these massive festivals and, these great gigs in Paris and all over the country. And that's how we got the Rolling Stones show.
And so you get a call one day. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's Ben or Adam or someone calls you. Were these guys managing you
No,
at the time?
no, it wasn't them at
It
the
was someone
time.
else.
Yeah.
So someone else calls you, whoever the manager was at the time, and said, "Hey guys, we got this little gig for you. You're going to open up for the Stones." And you're like, "Holy shit! There's no way this is like a real thing." Right?
Well, the funny thing is we were playing at the Lincoln Imp in Scunthorpe, which is this tiny little pub.
I don't even know what that is, but it
It
sounded very
sounds-
Spinal Tap.
It sounds
Yeah.
it is as glamorous as it sounds, Scunthorpe. So we're sort of there, and in all honesty, we were really kind of contemplating like our career and is anything that we're doing right, and
Right.
do we need to sort of rethink everything? Anyway, we get the phone call and it says, yeah, in less than 2 weeks you're going to go out and you're going to be opening up for the Stones.
And were you just like, "This is not? There's no way this is."
We were
real.
just like, we basically played in front of 60 people that night as if it was 60,000.
Amazing,
like,
amazing. So you get that call, your life changes right away. You're like, "I'm actually going to be on stage with the Stones. It's incredible." And all of a sudden, you're like, you have to rethink things, or you're like, "This is it. This is our path to really making it now."
It was definitely a great moment where we thought trusting our instincts had led us up to that point.
Okay.
And pretty much after that, it kind of gave us the confidence to look around us and sort of, really think, is this kind of what we want? We ended up changing our managers and perfectly timed our UK record label deal was basically coming to an end. So
And what was the first? Was "Kiss That" the first song
Kiss
that really?
This?
"Kiss This." Sorry, was "Kiss This." Was that the first one that really sort of stuck with people? Would you say?
It was actually could have been me. So we ended up changing management, and Ben, as you know, great guy, and has a great relationship with a lot of great stations over here in the US.
Yep.
Was like, look, I think this song is great. The fact that it has been played in the UK or really anywhere apart from France, I think is a great thing. Let's use it to our advantage, take it over to America. And of course, one thing led to another. And then it ended up, going top 5 in the alternative chart. And then we've just been here ever since.
Definitely. And you guys, because you guys had been in the band of how much at that point? Would it have been a year, would you say?
I'd say
No, we
yeah,
joined
we
like 7 years ago.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
at that point
20,
when
2012.
the Stones call came,
Oh, that was probably like 3.
yeah,
Couple
it
years?
was about 3
Okay.
years. So
and we were like, "Holy shit!" We
That
joined
was
this
great.
band a couple of years ago. We never thought this would happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been through a lot in those 3 years, to be fair.
Yeah.
And like Luke was saying, we were in that room contemplating what we're going to do next. And
All of a sudden,
like some Messiah Mick Jagger just calls, well, he didn't actually call, but
someone called in his
Yeah, and
behalf.
we get offered the Stones, so that was definitely our
thing.
savior.
Was there a lot of Spinal Tap moments before that? I love these stories because you watch that movie, you're like, this couldn't really happen in real life, but it does happen.
Yeah, it's definitely based on true stories for sure.
I've definitely
We did-
ended up doing like my makeup literally once in a broom cupboard where we had no
Amazing.
we had no dressing room or anything, and I needed to get changed. And I was like, "Is there anywhere I can go?" And the guy was like,
Take the broom cover.
"Literally go in here." And there was a bunch of brooms. There was no light. I had a mobile phone, just like going around. And what else?
But
I mean,
I'm
did,
sure there was gigs where you played in front of 5 people, right?
did,
10 people.
5, we'd be lucky.
One?
we swapped the lineup around when we played in Leicester, I believe, to 2 people.
Wow.
So we thought,
And then
let's
it's
have some
almost
fun.
like, were you like, why am I doing
Well,
this?
we
or-
swapped instruments.
Did
So
you?
Geth went
Amazing.
up with the mic.
I was
and
on the
then
drums.
Yeah, you played drums. We swapped guitar and bass.
Did
and,
anybody tape that? Because that would be great.
There
to
was
see.
And there was no
there
one
to
else
tape
tape
it.
it.
There was literally one person because one of them was the sound
bartender,
guy,
right.
and the sound guy left,
All right.
and then the other person was my cousin.
Amazing.
What's mad with that is actually it was within the same 6 months of doing shows like that we did the Stones gig.
Wow,
So
amazing.
It was a bit of a kind of, it messed with our heads a bit. 'Cause
Well, we'd come back from France, and I remember walking in, we were signed for this festival because of the airplay in France, and we walked in, and there was a massive air hangar, and we were playing on this stage, and there was like 7,000 people there.
And you went from literally the night before playing in the
and then
Spinal
we
Tap
landed
moments.
like full of us. I was like, yeah, we're getting somewhere. Then
Right.
played this gig in Leicester, and there was no one there. So.
Amazing. It must be a great feeling, though, to know that Jagger and Rich, all those guys heard you guys and were like, yeah, these guys should open up for us, because that's an incredible. You can't ask for a better compliment than that.
It was
right?
fantastic. I mean, and that specific show actually led us to go on and open up for them a few more times, which was it? It wasn't last year, was it?
Yeah.
It was last year.
we
Was
did.
it?
Yeah, we did Luca.
Yeah.
We did Luca in Italy and Switzerland. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it was great to sort of like
Did you get to hang with them?
so with those bands like that,
Yeah.
everything is super like locked down.
Yeah, yeah.
And it can be quite difficult. But we ended up saying hello to them really quickly, having a picture and
That was
having a quick
that was
catch up.
almost a Spinal Tap moment when we were playing the Switzerland, like it was a football stadium, like massive. You think they have so many changing rooms. We were put in like this little curtained
Pipe and
off
drape.
bit in the middle of the foyer with like people, like just the public, and it just said the Struts on in like Comic Sans on a piece of paper.
And those are the moments you're like, people only saw this side of the business,
Yeah,
right?
right.
That's so funny. So you got the picture, but you didn't really get a chance to hang with them, because people don't always know what that's like when you get to perform with a band like that.
When we actually opened up for them for the first time, we watched the sound check, and Mick actually came off stage and then clocked eyes with us, and then came over and we chatted for like 20 minutes.
He's a great guy. I had dinner with him a couple years ago. It
Yeah.
was the greatest moment of my life and the nicest guy. And it was real for me. It was like, do I ask him for a picture? I wanted to get a picture, but I didn't want to. I was like a little girl. Like I didn't really want to. Do I get his number? Do I not? But incredible. But what an amazing experience. So you've gone on from that. So now you guys are touring with bands like the Foo Fighters, and I know you toured with Motley Crue and The Who, which is incredible. So which is your favorite tour so far? Because I still want to understand how you go from that to even recently you did the VS show, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in between. But just on a side note, is there a favorite tour that you've done? Has
I
it been the Foo
definitely
Fighters?
say it's got to be the Foos.
Right.
I think
Because you guys have become friends now.
yeah, and
it's like a thing.
it was a big tour. We were like pretty much out with them on and off for like a year.
Yeah.
And the funny thing with that is we got offered like the first bunch of dates, and then it got towards the end, and then Dave would be like,
Can you do
"Are
more?
you available? Would you like to do more?" We were like, "Yeah, of course." So we did that. I mean,
And you were doing Under Pressure with Taylor. And
that's
the
what I
band.
was going to say. But I mean, that for me is something that no one can ever take away. Like when I close my eyes and think about it, and I'm singing, and Taylor's like there to my left, and Dave's behind on the drums.
You're like, this is surreal.
It was a beautiful thing.
Definitely. So, all right. So, you're opening up for the Stones. At some point, Zonda Rhodes, who actually designed the clothes of Freddie Mercury, also designed clothes for you, right? And obviously, there's the inevitable comparisons. You guys are probably sick of talking about the movie and Queen or not. But how did that come about, right? Because that's even a crazy comparison.
Well, that was actually my mum. So that was before. It was the 2 weeks leading up to doing the show with the Rolling Stones in France, and I was just like, "It's 75,000 people. I need something big, And I was actually just chatting to my mum, funny enough, about it, and I was showing pictures. She's like, "Well, what? Think about it. What kind of thing are you going for?" I was like, "It's got to be something big." We were looking at pictures of Freddie, like in the early days in the 70s,
like the striped jumpsuit and all that stuff.
and she was like, "Well, why don't you call her up?" So I ended up finding her email, and I just sent her a message.
Was she working at that point? Was she like
not
a
with
seamstress?
artists?
Okay.
No, she does a lot of stuff for like the opera,
Theater and stuff,
and ballet. And funny enough, she messaged me straight back the next day and was like, "Hey, come down to London," and that was great. I ended up going to a studio. She showed me all of the first cuts and the sort of like the design ideas of like all Queen's outfits.
Wow, how incredible is that?
So that was brilliant. And then recently, for the last 5 or so years, we've been working with Ray Brown.
Okay,
who's dressed,
everyone.
Alex Turner, Gaga, A lot of great
Motley
people.
Crue.
So from your sort of awkward stage, right, where you told me about that stage, to the point you're at now, would you think that she had a hand in sort of your imaging? Because obviously she was designing your stage
I mean,
clothes
she
and
only
whatnot,
she
so-
only did 3 outfits for me.
Okay.
But they were. I mean, you talk about quality, not quantity. It was like, I mean, those 3 specific outfits. Still now, you know, I'm getting tagged in pictures, and you know, a lot of press kind of like use those, and of course, everyone still wants to talk about it,
Of
and it's a
course.
great experience. I would say the stuff that we've done with Ray equally has got a great amount of attention. I mean, we talk about the Victoria's Secret fashion show, for instance. We didn't quite know what they wanted styling wise, and they were like, well, what have the band got? So we showed them these new outfits that we had made by Ray Brown, and
They're like, we want to put you in some bras, like maybe the diamond bra.
no, but they saw it and they were like, this is perfect. You know, this is perfect. I mean, funny enough, we're kind of going for like a black and gold theme for
Right.
your section, and this works perfectly. So the Victoria's Secret wings were a great audition.
Yeah, I managed to blag them. Which
I think I
was,
saw that picture. You tried them on, didn't you?
I not only tried them on, I
You
wore
took them?
on the. Well, I didn't take them.
Oh, okay.
He's the first man in the
To ever-
history of Victoria's Secret fashion show to wear wings.
Yeah.
on
That's
the
pretty
covers.
amazing.
Some of the models were quite confused about how he managed to
Confused,
blag that.
angry, yeah,
Right.
disappointed.
They
maybe.
wanted them to.
They didn't
could-
see my Victoria's Secret beauty, I guess. But
All right, so you do the Stone show. Take me back one other second. Sorry, because I know we're all over the place with this. But after the Stone show, the record's starting to break, right? A little bit. Singles are starting to kick in everywhere. And so at some point, you also got off that label, and Interscope is now your new home. So where did that lead to you know, after those shows? Like, what happened after that?
Well, that basically led us, you know, having a great deal of radio success here in the States, which in return just meant, you know, for the first time ever, we found ourselves on a bus, you know, a tour bus. And
Because you
we
were in a
like-
van before.
Oh
that.
yeah, I mean, we were even in a van at the very beginning, coming here for a little while, but eventually we ended up on a bus. You know, we acquired like a fantastic crew, who pretty much we're still with now.
And people don't know how bored you get, like sitting in a bus or van together. I read the story, I heard the story that you guys used to turn the heat up until
Yeah.
one of you like passed out, or you were like, "All right, I give, throw up the flag," right? And
Yeah.
you got to be pretty bored to do it. There's got to be something going on.
That
when
was
you're doing
back
that,
in the
right?
early days
Right.
when we were driving through France. Yeah, we used to do that quite a lot.
So what was it? You would actually turn the heat up
We
until
would-
one of you guys
we-
would
so we-
surrender or something?
We had a little Ford Transit van, and it would just be 4 of us with Adam's cousin driving, and we'd just be so bored. And we had like 2 hours before we got to the venue,
Right.
and I'd be like, right, let's play a game. You know, we got to turn up all the heat, blast it.
In the
And
summer as well.
In the summer.
In the summer.
Man, there's probably like
Jeez.
a McDonald's meal from like 2 months ago.
Oh
on
my
the,
God!
on
you
the
guys,
window-
you
on
probably
the-
smelled incredible.
Getting recooked up like a microwave.
So we'd be there, and it would just be like, you know, 45 minutes later, it's like all this hot air, and eventually it'd be like someone would just go, please stop, and we just like wind all the windows down, and we'd get out, and we'd just be like covered in sweat.
I surrender.
Yeah, we'd literally be so bored.
So then you guys, all right, we got a bus. We're on tour in
Yeah.
America. It's starting to happen for you. And at that point, did you sort of decide consciously, you were like, America is the place where we really want to sort of spend a lot of time?
Yeah.
To really, because this is a big market for you guys, obviously. And it's probably hard being away from home a lot, right? You're constantly away from home. Or is it? I don't know. Maybe
I
you
think
don't.
last year was tough. We did 4 months out here without going back.
Wow.
And I think that was the first time, honestly, in 3 years of touring that I actually felt homesick for the first time.
Because you guys
Well-
all pretty much have girlfriends except for you, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the one single guy that I should be hanging out with. So for the rest of you, well, your girlfriend comes on the road with you, right?
She does, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you guys, and I think your girlfriend comes on the road sometimes too.
Yeah,
but
'cause she's also musician,
musician,
so she
right?
tours as
She's
well.
in Little Mix,
so,
right?
Yeah.
But
So
it's hard. It is hard to be away from, you know, whether it's your girlfriend, your family for that many, you know, months at a time. So, but you made a real big commitment to break in America, which is incredible. So, and at a certain point, you got these calls, right? Guns N' Roses called,
Yeah.
the Foo Fighters called, and you're like, man, things are really starting to happen. And I want to talk about for a second the state of rock and roll, right? I'm sure like you guys see it happening now. Guns N' Roses, the second biggest tour of the year, or second biggest tour of all time, I believe. the movies, right? Bohemian Rhapsody, even A Star Is Born, for whatever it's worth. It's a music movie, probably one of the two biggest movies of the year. And so there is a bit of a shift going on, a cultural shift. And Ben and I were speaking about this article about the state of rock and roll. And Greta Van Fleet, a band that you guys are touring with, they just played Saturday Night Live the other day. So do you feel like there's a little bit of shift? Because for me, you guys are one of the greatest bands in this genre, and definitely the guys that are holding the flag. It's probably why I connect with you so much, because you know me, I'm really a rocker at heart. This is where I come from. So what do you feel about the state of rock and roll? Right, exactly.
I mean, it really hasn't changed for us since the very beginning of when we kind of really started. And that's kind of like always been our motivation, and something that we've found that we could, in some ways kind of capitalize on it. And that's what we used to get excited about, was the sheer lack of it. I think what's really exciting now is, like you said, there definitely is a shift of people's consciousness with a lot of great music movies. There are a lot of bands now, over the last couple of years that are starting to come up and really kind of like play with a lot of passion.
So who do you like band-wise, right? Do you like Rival Sons? Do you like any of these sort of like retro style bands?
We've been out with a band called Glorious Sons.
Yeah.
Who are a great band. Canadian band.
They're really cool. There's another band called White Reaper.
Right. Are they toured with you guys, right?
Yeah.
Who else do you guys like? You must all like different
Sunflower
stuff.
Bean as well.
Sunflower Bean we work with, and they were just on the show too.
Yeah, I think they're great.
She was amazing.
Their new EP I thought was fantastic. But
and
again,
that to me is like a Fleetwood Mac kind of
it
vibe,
is,
right?
Yeah, sonically. But there definitely is like a resurgence of sort of like young bands coming up and not being afraid to, play and sound how they truly want.
So I guess in 2017, rock music accounted for 20% of all the music consumed in the U.S., which I feel like it used to be 70%. So we got to get that number up a little bit. But I love that you guys are doing it, and you guys are so authentic, and the songs are amazing. And so I want to talk a bit about your new record, obviously, because it's great, and it just came out in October. And Kesha, the song with Kesha is actually Body Talks, is getting a lot of play right now, top 40, right? So you got to be excited because this record's still happening. There's a lot of buzz about the record. The VS show just happened for you guys. And so let's talk about the new record and kind of how it differs from, your first album, which you were probably playing for about 7 years, I'd assume, right?
Yeah.
So the new record, the writing process, is it different than, years ago when you started? Because you guys started working on these songs on the first record years ago, right, Adam?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, like Could Have Been Me and Kiss This were written in like 2011. And then it came out in 2014 and then got re-released over here in 2016. So like got some real miles out of them songs.
And after 7 years, you guys like, please, let's just play some new songs.
Yeah, it's like one album material.
Right.
So
we were definitely itching and ready to start doing new stuff. I'd say the biggest difference between the debut and our second album, Young and Dangerous, was finding the time to sit down and do it, because we were constantly doing shows.
Right.
And we would get like 7 days, little tiny breaks, and it would be like, right, we got to do stuff and we got to pretty much like finish it.
Were there outside writers ever? Because I think I initially met you guys through my buddy Marty Fredrickson, who I played drums with many years ago.
Yeah.
And that's how I think I connected with you guys. But do you ever use outside writers on the first record, this record? You do, right?
I think we love writing as a band. We love sort of like mixing our ideas up. And I think it's important that for the second album, we wanted to kind of spread our wings and taste what like LA as well, especially, had to offer. So we ended up working with Butch Walker.
Great, I love Butch. He's great.
He was brilliant.
He's the man.
It wasn't. I think the great thing about this band, whatever it is that we do and however the songs are written, the songs really do come from us, like the artists. And it's, God, we've never had anything given to us, like, hey,
here's a great song.
God, we could never do that. But I think it makes you grow as a writer. I think one day, I think we all sort of like view ourselves as songwriters first and foremost. And when you end up working with people, you do learn a lot.
Definitely.
Whether it's with Marty, for instance, who is an
so
absolute genius.
Yeah, so laid back.
And a great producer as well. So you just take things, and I think you apply that to your own work, And honestly, I think it shows on the second album.
Definitely.
We've got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Definitely. And I want to play Kiss This because we haven't played any music yet. This is a music show at the end of the day.
True.
So I want to jump to Kiss This. We'll be right back with the Struts, and you're listening to Lips LA. Hey, we're back. We're with the Struts. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah, we're good.
So you've had any dream collaborations coming up?
Well,
Kesha was one.
Kesha
right?
was brilliant. I mean,
Tell us about that. Because
Yeah.
you put out Body Talks, and then you went in the studio. You sort of like produced it a little bit differently.
Uh-huh.
And she's on the single again. And now that single's getting a lot of traction. You performed at the VS show with it. So I also want to know how that came about, because that's like every guy's dream in a band to play at the VS show.
Yeah. Well, firstly, the song was written and recorded actually here in LA.
Cool.
Which was really great.
Hollywood Boulevard or something?
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this tiny little room. And
In a broom closet.
yeah, not quite. But yeah, it was written, recorded here, and then once we had like the main track listing for Young and Dangerous, we were kind of toying with the idea of it would be great to have some sort of like duet. And we'd actually met Kesha quite a while back while we were playing a college show, and she was playing, and we ended up chatting with her, and we kind of really connected. Jed stayed in touch with her for quite a while. And yeah, we just thought, you know what? Body Talks, actually, when you think about it, is the perfect song for a guy and a girl to sing.
Definitely.
It's all about two people meeting on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she says, yeah. So I end up going on a day off and flying back here while we were on tour to cut the vocal with her. And she didn't even know the words. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, I heard the first 10 seconds. I said, yes, I'll do it. So let's go over it, shall we? But it was great. She's brilliant. She really brought something to the song.
Definitely.
I personally think it's better than the band one. I think you can't replicate the chemistry that we kind of had in the studio. All of the laughs, all of the screams.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of ad-libbing going on in the song
that
too.
was
which is
all
great,
done like with just me and her with a microphone, and we were just dancing around the room. And
the video was great too. Tell us about the video. 'cause
yeah,
the
well,
video
her
was
brother
great, so.
directed it.
Oh, amazing.
He's a great guy.
Cool.
And a great director. And it was honestly, it was the most painless video shoot I think we've ever done. And
'Cause
we've done some really big stuff, which has been brilliant. We've also done some low budget videos. I mean, we did a video for Prima Donna Like Me where we flew in and then we shot from, what was it, like 3 a.m. till 9 a.m. the next day.
Wow.
So that one was fantastic. It was just, we turned up, did our bits. Her brother, like I said, was just really assertive, really great, directed the band fantastically. And she just came in and just sort of, was her usual self, like an absolute star. So we've got a lot of love for her.
Awesome. No, it's great. It's a great song. And so at some point you get the call to play the VS show.
Yes.
And does that come from Ben or Adam or one of you guys, right? So
Yeah, I remember it was Ben actually telling us. And the funny thing is,
I think he told me about a second later. He was so excited. He was like,
yeah. So
he's like,
we got told it, and I remember the guys were like, "Oh, okay." And I was,
Yeah,
and
we
then
were
you,
expecting
Gath,
something-
you were excited. I know you were.
I mean, I
excited.
was. Well, to be fair, I didn't
Yeah.
really know what it really was.
Right.
Because I remember all my school friends, like the girls would get together and have like Victoria's Secret fashion show parties where they'll eat ice cream and watch these shows. But
I'm still doing that, by the way.
But it
Yeah,
was-
right. I never got invited, so I'm bitter.
it was really funny because we were all in the room, and Ben said it, and I was like, "Wow!" Because I obviously knew, because Laura was telling me,
Right.
like for ages,
How big is it?
about how big of a deal it is, and the guys were like, "Oh," and she was like, "No, guys, this is like massive. Like, don't you
I think we
realize?"
were expecting some other news.
We were.
which didn't come
I don't
through,
know
so we-
what it was.
So
but-
like
Right.
at the time we were disappointed.
I do
but I'm
remember
looking-
it's the first time that my girlfriend's ever been jealous of something that's happened in our career. She was like, I would kill for that
Yeah,
gig.
it's
And I was like,
amazing.
oh, sick. Is it that good? She was like,
It
"You're
was
kidding
good.
me, man."
And then
It's
so you
amazing.
get the call, you rehearse for like a week, and you finally do it. They're like, do you interact with the girls? Do you not? What was sort of the general take on it? I mean, how did you feel about it when you were doing it? Because it already passed.
So we ran through it like I think 3 or 4 times. The first couple of times were getting used to the catwalk. They don't have the models there. They have sort of stand-in extras
Okay.
with big cardboard signs on saying,
That's pretty funny.
Kendall you know, and Gigi and all, and they just have these big signs, so you can kind of get a sense of when they're going to be coming out.
Right. Also awkward to interact with cardboard cutouts.
And at the time, they don't have their big, massive dresses. They don't have anything. They're just kind of walking around in their kind of normal day-to-day clothes, these extras. So that was all good. You know, we kind of got the feel of it and felt really confident. And then you do 2 runs with the models, full dress, full everything, with an audience. And that's when it was like a little bit
really
difficult.
happening, yeah.
Because the catwalk isn't that wide.
Right, sure.
For one.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm fairly animated anyway. So I'm just.
You're like, am I going to fall off this thing?
I was thinking, am I going to fall off? And am I going to stand on one of their fucking skirts or something?
Right.
Because that was real. And apparently I went like this at one point.
Hit a girl in the face.
And I almost hit someone.
Amazing.
But I know Adam was having like Ferris anxiety before.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep the night before.
Really? Well, it's a pretty big deal, isn't it? I mean,
because I had to go down the catwalk with my guitar, and I was like, shit, because they got the big wings on and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, what if I knock one of the wings and they fall off or something like that? So
see, I'm like
it was
Larry
horrible.
David, so anything that could go wrong, I thought would go wrong. That's how I would be thinking.
It was terrifying.
It's amazing.
But we did I think we did a really great job, and I think the audience really liked it. And one of the great things I thought about the whole experience was, you know, we were really rubbing shoulders with massive top 40 pop stars.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved the irony that really not a lot of people really knew who we were.
Yeah.
You know, like you had Halsey,
Rita Ora,
Shawn Mendes, Chainsmokers.
Right.
It was really cool to be there and not only be there but close the whole show and do 2 songs.
Incredible. Yeah, and also I wouldn't say a lot of rock bands have done that
No.
before. Maybe the first rock band to ever play the VS show, I believe, right?
I mean,
I'd have to fact check that, but
Fall
I
Out
feel
Boy did
like
it.
I think
the closest thing would be
oh,
Fall Out
okay,
Boy.
all right. Well, anyway, the first like rock
and roll
band.
band. Yeah.
The most recent
rock
and roll
band. Right, exactly. So I do want to jump for a minute because obviously, listen, inevitably, when I saw that Queen movie, I was like, you could have played Freddie Mercury because
Right.
the inevitable comparisons of the years. I mean, for anybody that hasn't seen the Struts, Luke is one of the greatest rock showmans happening at the moment, and just you're an incredible showman. So,
Thank you.
But I mean, obviously, everyone has feelings about this movie. I know that the timeline of the movie is probably not that accurate, but at the end of the day, it is entertainment. I think Rami did a great job. But did you guys like it? What did you think?
I thought it was. I mean, for me personally, it's been a very funny journey because before it all kind of started to get properly filmed, I actually got a call to go for a camera test when who was it? Brian Singer ended up directing it.
Yeah.
So the director before him,
Jonas Ackerman, right?
it was Jonas's friend.
Oh, I thought it was Jonas.
Was up for doing it, and Jonas actually put me forward and said, "Look, I've worked with this guy. I think he'd be perfect." Anyway,
you do agree he would have done great in the role.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know your acting skills. But
I
I feel
mean,
like you could have pulled that off.
I mean, who knows? At
Right.
the end of the day, so I was really kind of like excited, and I was kind of honored to be thought of.
Yeah.
And literally a week before the camera test, everything went really quiet, and then the director got changed by the band.
Oh, right,
Brian
right.
Singer came in and he
Right.
brought Rami, and I was so upset. I didn't listen to Queen for like 48 hours, and then
Only 48 hours.
and then, but honestly, so for me, I was watching that film and I was just so happy that I thought Rami did a fantastic job. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they did the right thing, that they used Freddie's original voice with the vocals.
I mean, I guess the fact that the band was in on the movie and it was all authorized. I mean, obviously the timeline's not correct and all that kind of stuff. So you want to. There's definitely for the fans that are really into the band and been into the band for years. You're probably watching it thinking this wasn't like this. It didn't happen like this. But ultimately, I guess if Brian May and the other guys were sort of in on it, then you got to imagine they wanted it, to portray a picture that was portrayed, obviously, right?
I think it gives every singer a lesson. Don't trust your guitarist and drummer to be in charge of your legacy on film.
Right.
Because,
Right.
I mean, I think the only things that I took away that were quite negative was how they kind of painted Freddie to be like the real troublemaker,
The partier in
and
the
they
band.
used that as as part of the narrative.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I thought was it didn't really have a lot of substance really or truth to really stand on its own. But at the end of the day, it's Hollywood.
Definitely.
And what's the most important thing was that, you know, I think everyone leaves the cinema or, you know, finishes that film appreciating like what a great songwriter he was, what a great band they were.
Absolutely.
And what fantastic songs they are as well.
Amazing song. So I do want to play some more music before you guys go. We have a little bit left to talk about. So let's play In Love with the Camera, because obviously there's a whole fashion component we want to come back and talk about in 1 second. How did that song come about? Is it a selfie Instagram world? I mean, was that inspired by any of this world we live in now?
It was actually, it was the very first works of that song was a joke song.
Oh,
Funny enough, it's the jokes that's gone too far. And
you and Adam were working on that joke song.
it was we literally sat down with a producer that we've done a lot of great stuff with, and he's really helped us develop our sound over the years. And we just sort of said, look, let's just do something really different, something quite meat and potatoes basic. You know, it's not think too much.
Right.
Anyway, so
It's a fun song.
it is. It's super fun, and we wanted it to be fun. And we then sort of like laid something down. Literally, the first idea was done in about 2 or 3 hours. And then me and Az jumped back on a plane, flew back to the UK. And then a week later, we kind of had the first workings of what would become In Love with the Camera. It was a completely different lyric.
Wow. What was it called?
It was, what was it?
Love in a Stereo.
Love in an Elevator?
Love in a Stereo, yeah, or something like that.
It had many different names. It got rewritten about 10 times.
Yeah, that was the hardest song to do, and it wasn't until I was actually sort of on a miniature vacation up in Topanga, just sort of getting away from everything, and my manager sort of called me up and said, hey, you know, the producer that you've been working with in LA sort of like has this idea and wants to know whether you'd be up for trying it. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm coming down. So I drove down onto Hollywood Boulevard, came up, and then all of a sudden it was like, you know, what about cameras? What about cell phones?
Right.
All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Because you are a very visual band, let's face it.
Yes.
So, right?
And then I didn't really think... I wasn't completely sold on it, but I have to tell the truth. As soon as I sung the first working lyric where it ended the cadence with In Love with the Camera, I was like, yeah, I think this could actually really work. And as much as I didn't really want to admit it, I kind of knew that, this could really work. And then obviously from then on, it very quickly got finished, and we worked the lyric up and eventually cut the song. And
well, it definitely works.
Yeah.
So I want to jump to In Love with the Camera. We'll be right back with the Struts and finishing up some secrets about what they did in school. I do want to say that the venues that you guys are playing over there, right? Is that something? So were you playing like 1,000 seaters over there?
yeah, what is it? It's about 1,500?
Yeah, a few theatres. We're doing a headline. So, yeah, we're going out with Greta Van Fleet.
Awesome. Do we know the dates? The dates set in stone?
The dates are set in stone.
What are those dates? Because I think we should announce those dates here. Those dates are coming up. So if you guys are listening, you guys should definitely check out. And this show will definitely play in Australia. So check out the band in Australia with Greta Van Fleet. I believe the dates are 29th through the 6th. Coming up, so it's like real soon.
Yeah.
So it's just the two bands together. That's awesome. That's going to be a great bill. You excited about that?
I am actually. Yeah, we're super buzzing to get out there, get our foot in the door with the Australians. I think Australia for me, you know, has had like a big history of. I mean, Bon Scott,
right?
You know, one of
Can't
my
beat it.
favorite singers of all time. You know, is such an Australian, like through and through.
Do you ever like any other like rock? Rose Tattoo? Do you know them? Like
I don't know them. No.
Midnight Oil. You must know Midnight Oil.
Midnight Oil.
Right?
I know one song with Midnight Oil. There's one like
How
this.
to Whistly, well, the bit. I don't want to sing.
Oh, come on, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But any other Australian bands you like?
I mean, you've got the.
God, I mean, I
Let's listen to Wolf Mother.
Oh yeah, I like Wolf
Are
Mother,
they
yeah.
Australian?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, there's got to be some other.
In Excess.
In Excess,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys must know. I'm sure you guys know some Australian bands that you like, right? We were just talking about the fact that you guys are playing over there soon, which is awesome. So, any Australian bands that you're into?
Jet.
Oh, I love Jet.
Oh,
That
Jet,
was great.
yeah.
I
Jet's
forgot
got one
about
of the
Jet.
best-
Yeah,
one of the
great
greatest
band.
albums.
What a
Get
great
Born
band.
is fantastic.
Would it be realistic to say that Jet sort of has a similar music musical sphere as you guys. I think it's in the same
I think so, yeah.
realm. Yeah.
I mean, it's often a reference for us with writing.
Yeah.
It's something that we all, when we started out as musicians and we played, well, the bands that I personally played when I first started bands was like the Hives.
Right. I
Jet,
love the Hives. Yeah.
that kind of sort of garagey.
It's always an interesting question that I love to ask at the sort of the end of each show here. If you could join any band that wasn't the Struts, what would it be? So I'm going to go for you, Luke, first.
Well, obviously,
Obviously.
you know, if Adam Lambert ended up breaking his leg, you know,
You'll fill in.
I could fill in for a couple of shows.
All
you
right.
know?
So that would be Queen. Get them?
I would go Oasis, I think. 'cause
Oasis,
it's,
okay.
It's not
Mate,
like
good luck,
it's not like the toughest job, really, is it? Like, I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
Living on that tour bus would be the
yeah. I
tough
think it would
Yeah.
be fun. Yeah.
If they ever got back together, obviously. That may
Yeah,
never
well,
happen.
you know.
Yeah. What about you, Jim?
Mine would probably be the Killers.
The Killers, right. I
Just
actually
for
read
those-
that, yeah.
Yeah,
You love them.
I do.
Yes.
They kind of got me into music.
Yeah, and Adam, what about you?
Probably the Stones or something, because you know, when we used to cover those songs and stuff like that, it's like the freedom to just jam,
Yeah,
and that's probably why they're still doing it, because it's just so fun to jam them songs and you can just play for hours.
definitely.
I'd
I will
love to
say,
just-
like, watching you guys at the Roxy, it was so amazing to see how into it the crowd was. Because I see rock shows a lot, but you don't see crowds as into it as they were for you guys. And it was like this kinetic energy. I mean, we actually did a photo shoot during the day, which is incredible, and one of my favorite photo shoots I've done to date, which is great.
Thank you.
But do you guys like doing photo shoots? Are you into it? Because fashion is a big part of what you do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think
Do you have a favorite one, like a Mick Rock one or something?
we actually haven't done anything with Mick Rock.
Oh, okay.
No, and we've been meaning to. I know he's been interested in working with us, so that would be really cool. I think they're all kind of unique and special. I mean, the one that we did at the Roxy, I thought was particularly special because it, you know, for now we can look back on those pictures, and not only are they kind of like really cool and vibey, but it also captures like a specific moment of time, which, you know, when we think about those 3 shows, was it 3 or 4?
4.
It was 4 shows that, I mean, God, we had so many great people come up with us. We had Butch Walker, we had Tommy Lee, Randy Jackson.
Shout out to Randy Jackson, my boy.
We had Ralph.
Yeah, this is my band.
We had Ralph from Steel Panther. We
right.
had Chad Smith.
Yeah,
you know,
everyone,
I mean,
yeah.
We had Matt Sorum.
Matt Sorum. I mean,
Everyone.
great. What a great bunch of nights. So, you know, they're all unique in their own way.
Definitely. So for 2019, guys, right? So here we are, Australia, a bunch of dates coming up. And then what's next? Because obviously there's going to be another single. Right now we're on Body Talks, Top 40 rated, which is great. And what's in store for 2019? You guys are always on the road. I feel like there's more road stuff going on.
We're
here,
definitely going to be going on the road. We're actually about to head to the United Kingdom
right? Amazing.
and do our biggest tour there to date, which is great. We're going to be playing the legendary Shepherd's Bush,
Oh, amazing.
which, you know, we've all been to shows there as individuals, watching other bands, and I think it's always been like a dream of ours to do that specific venue. Well, it has been for me anyway. So that's going to be a real landmark for us. We're going into Europe as well, which is
Right.
great. We're going back to Paris as well, which will be very nostalgic and,
Awesome.
and sort of almost like a second homecoming in a few ways. And from that, we're going to be popping back here for like a very small run and a couple of like private shows. And then we're going to be doing the Young and Dangerous tour, which is going to go all the way through America. We're going to be hitting some festivals.
Great.
We're doing Shaky Knees this year. We're doing, what was the other one that we got confirmed the other day, which was great?
Maybe can't announce it yet, but yeah, sounds
Yeah.
cool.
There's a
Oh
big
shit!
festival.
Okay, we're also
Right.
going to Japan as well,
Amazing.
which is going to be fantastic.
Do you ever feel like the danger? I mean, the record's called Young and Dangerous. Do you ever feel like the danger should come back into rock and roll a little bit? I mean, you look. I know you and I feel like you and I agree with this. Like, you look at Guns N' Roses and what that was all about, and like that time period, right?
You can't do that anymore, can
I know.
you? Really, because
You get in trouble.
it's not as easy anymore. Like you've got to really work for it. Like,
Definitely.
today. Cause
But you love rock and roll documentaries, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was watching this documentary actually this morning. Gigi Allen. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Man, you got to watch it. That was like beyond bringing back the rock and roll. The guy would like, it was like Iggy Pop when he used to cut himself, but to like the 1,000th degree. It was really twisted.
Oh,
but
I know about him. He
man,
used
that
to
was yeah. We
do
don't
stuff on
do
stage
stuff.
that
That
he-
was like,
yeah.
geez, that was a heavy one. But so bringing back
I don't
the
want to bring
rock-
that back.
No, we don't want to bring. We
not
definitely don't want to bring
anytime
that back.
soon.
But bringing back the danger into rock and roll, even a little bit would be great. Don't you agree?
I think for me, like personally, the danger element that comes with like this music is living and dying by our own sword.
Right.
That's kind of why it kind of adopted that name, because, you know, let's be really honest, what we're doing, what we sound like, how we present ourselves is not the norm, and it probably isn't the easiest way to go about being successful in the music industry in
Definitely.
2019. So that's the danger element, and I think that's what I would like to see with bands is you know, them being inspired and brave enough to kind of like say, you know what, I don't care about what's on the radio, I don't care about the trends, this is what I love, this is what I want to do,
Yeah.
and you know, and do it to its absolute best.
Pay my own way. So leave the story a little bit PC because we are on the radio. But the last great story, I was researching you guys. You guys saw that I did my homework, right? So great stories that happened in school, right? There's one last thing I wanted to talk about because I was dying laughing when I watched what you guys were talking about when you were in school and your stories, right? The funniest thing or the naughtiest thing, whatever you ever did, right? What was that in school? Because
I was an absolute terror at school. I really was. The story is true. I did dip my balls into my music teacher's coffee when he was out of the room.
I mean, how does that even happen? I don't even understand how that happens.
Yeah, I was. I used to crave attention and you know, and whatnot. And God, I mean, I remember we locked our chemistry teacher in the chemicals cupboard. He went in to grab something. We literally took it and shut the door and put a pencil in there.
Amazing.
And then we all just ran out.
And he couldn't get out.
God, we set the roof on fire with a Bunsen burner.
I didn't go to school like that. What happened? What about you guys? Do you have stories like that?
No, I mean,
No, you told a story too, guys.
what was mine?
You put like Vaseline on the.
Oh, yeah,
I
come
mean, not
on, is
that
that- is that-
dangerous, but I do remember there
Yeah,
was a
that's
story
young and
there, right?
dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Putting Vaseline on my teacher's handle.
Well, what about you guys? You have stories from growing up at school?
I was
Like
a golden boy.
pretty
you were,
boring.
you were, right? I could tell you were a very good
I
student.
was not. I don't think we would have been pals in school. Put it that
Right.
way.
You were like the.
I would have been the kid.
Were you the jock in school? Or no?
No, I was sporty, but
Sporty, right.
I wasn't. I don't know. I don't know. I was
No.
a nice lad, you know.
You were,
so-
right. Adam, anything? Any stories from school?
Nah, man, I was the loser.
You were the
I
loser.
proper was.
I don't
yeah.
believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah, and I think I got caught smoking in the bushes once.
That's a story. So, guys,
Fucking great. Mate.
well, guys, go out and download the record, Young and Dangerous. Amazing band, the Struts. If you guys don't know them, you know, pick up everything Struts related. The greatest band happening in rock and roll at the moment. Love these guys. Thank you so much for coming on, and keep it alive, guys. Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Scott.
Thank you.